Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn KERBECK. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio. Your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Hello and welcome to this episode of A Woman's Prerogative, where we provide high-class education for our viewers. We also encourage our viewers to access our free contents on both our channel, USA Global TV and Radio, and Dr. Jacalyn KERBECK on YouTube. So please subscribe. We will be very happy if you subscribe because we have lots of content. So there is absolutely everything for everyone. So today our topic is, what does divorce bring and take from women? So we're going to explore the dynamic. Do you wonder why actually 75% of divorces come from women that actually go forward with divorce? Men actually ask for 66% of divorces. So why do women actually ask for a divorce, even if they will suffer more from the divorce? So we will actually talk about this subject, myself and my beautiful co-host, Dr. Jacalyn KERBECK, who is the owner and producer of this show. So she is Private Advisory, Global Media Leadership founder, and executive producer and chief listener and for USA Global TV and Radio. She is a best-selling author, and she actually won the YouTube Silver Creator Award. So let us welcome this beautiful lady for our show.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I love this topic, by the way, because I can certainly relate to it, as can you. So what was it that prompted you to come up with this topic for us today?
Because I was reading something that was telling that 75% of divorces are actually the demand of women. 66% are from men. But what I did not understand is that women, even if they are 75% asking for a divorce, they are the ones that will lose more from a divorce. So I was thinking to myself, let us look at that topic because it's so important to understand, why do women ask for divorces, even if they will lose in the long run? So let us dive into this subject.
I can only speak on my own behalf. I'm divorced a very long time. I think it was 1999. And I filed and I wanted to move on with my life. And I was willing to walk away from quite a bit just because I wanted my independence back. And I think that that's what happens, at least from the women I've spoken to. When you're the one filing, you want to move on. You want to have closure. And typically the other person doesn't. They don't feel the same way. And there can be a situation where one person is completely blindsided. They had no idea this was going to happen. And I always say that there are red flags. There are clues. There are indications that it's happening, but you're just not paying attention. But somebody can be really hurt. And especially if the person leaving has someone else, that can cause a lot of problems. So I think it depends. Are you the one filing, or are you the one finding out that it's over, and then how do you deal with it? So I think depending on women in which category they're in, what do you think?
Well, I think this is a reality. The thing is that it depends for the reason. If the person is leaving for someone else, that must hurt. I have to admit, it must really hurt. But the thing is that when we file for divorce, usually it is to be happy. It is because we are not happy anymore in the marriage, or there are serious issues. So we decide to choose ourselves. That is what happened to me. And I am a person that did not only divorce once, but I divorced twice. This is even worse. So people judge me very much because I chose myself twice. So what do you think about that? A person that actually goes through the divorce twice?
Well, nothing's guaranteed. And what I really believe is when you're in a relationship with someone and you're not happy and you try to force it, you try to make it work, and there's various steps that go into this, right? Sometimes people will seek counseling, or maybe they'll do a trial separation, or maybe one person starts doing things the other person likes to do so they can try to do more things together. At some point, you realize it doesn't work. And I think that people make a lot of justifications because they don't want to admit it's not working. But does a person really want to be with someone who's not in love with them, or with someone they're not compatible with, or maybe someone they just downright can't stand because of money, because of children, because of status? There's so many things. And I think that that's something that people fall into a trap, especially if your partner is the one who's been providing financially, and then you think about, what am I going to do now? How am I going to live? And also, if your partner leaves you for someone else, a lot of times that can just create so much anger and jealousy and resentment that you can't see anything except spending the next X number of years just trying to break them down and ruin everything that you built together, which is at your own detriment.
Yes, you're right. You're very right. Because there is a lot of anger when a person leaves for someone else, which is actually, I do think that, people should actually just divorce and then go to someone else. Because walking from one person to the other is not the solution, because there's always has to be a time of transition. And this time of transition, usually, if it is not done, actually, the second relationship will not work. This is the way it is, actually. You have, well, first of all, people do not know that, but a person that will leave for their lover or their mistress, 80% of the time, it will not work. So they leave for someone else, and 80% of the time, that relationship will not work. So, do we really want to do something like that? If someone actually decides they leave for their mistress or for their lover, what stops the other one from not being unfaithful again to their spouse if they were already unfaithful to their other spouse? So that is what really is intriguing to me. What guarantees that if they walk away from their marriage, that the other person that actually is walking away from their own marriage will not walk away from their second marriage? That is the way I see things. What are the guarantees? And 80% of the time, it does not work.
We're humans, after all, and humans change their mind and scenarios change. So, to me, at this stage in my life, I'm not a big proponent of marriage. I personally would not be getting married again. I think it makes sense that after you've been married and it doesn't work, maybe you just look at framing it up a different way. Maybe you have your own home and they have their own place, and then you get together and spend X amount of time together. But to think, at least for me, that we're going to go through life with one person. And I know people have done it. I know people who are doing it. So I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying that because the divorce rates are so high, if we were actually to dive into it, we might come up with the fact that it's very difficult to stay with one person for your whole life. So if the marriage doesn't work and you decide to leave, then at some point you may want to be with someone else. But I think it makes a lot of sense to heal from the broken marriage, because both people, no matter whether you filed or you didn't, both people are going through something. And so to just rebound and go out and find someone else, I don't have the statistics, but I'd like to look into it. I believe, and again, no statistics yet, that men are more likely to sort of rubber band and go and find someone else because it's difficult to be alone. Whereas with women, again, no statistics as of yet to back it up, we are now finding our independence and feeling like all the things that we weren't able to do that we now are able to do. So to go into another marriage, I personally would think very seriously about having a committed relationship as opposed to having a signed piece of paper, because it's difficult. And again, we change, we grow. Sometimes we're growing and our partner's not growing, and vice versa.
You're right. You're absolutely right. But the thing is that people actually they they are scared of getting into a new relationship. I know it took me 15 years to get into another relationship after my second divorce. So that is long. That is very long. But there is a tendency, there is something that happens it has to do with psychology. The thing is that the better you have been treated by your spouse, the faster you will get into another relationship. So that says it all. So when actually someone goes back into a relationship very fast, actually the fact is that they were not so ill treated. What do you think of that?
I haven't heard that before, so I don't know. I just know people whom I've known or worked with who ended up getting divorced. And typically it's the man who is looking for someone and the woman then finds her independence. So I guess it's a case by case basis. And I would think that it differs depending on what culture you're in as well. I know in some cultures, divorce is not even recognized. You can't get a divorce. And obviously there's countries where there's prearranged marriages. And so that's a different thing as well. But one thing that I really believe is when you go through a divorce, in my own experience, it is very traumatic. And it's traumatic for a lot of reasons. And I just did a show about something similar today. When you identify with a role, so the role is you are Mrs. So-and-so, and you have been in this role and you have friends and you all get together, maybe it's couples, and all of a sudden this changes. And it's kind of like, oh, I no longer fit. And you also go through something where you're now a single person who's used to hanging out with married people. So now it's couples and it's you. And so what I found myself, and even when people are widowed, when they've lost a spouse, they're the third person, they're the fifth person, they're the seventh person. So people will just start declining invitations and they'd rather not be in that situation. I think we all try it for a while, but it just doesn't feel complete. So then we may go off in other ways to discover some hobbies that we're interested in, or maybe fulfill some dreams. But it's also the fact that something that you believed was going to work, that you made a vow and a commitment, it didn't work. And that's a failure. And so we have to accept the fact that we failed. And if it was them who left and it was them who found someone else, is it that we were not being true to ourselves? Did we not see the person as they were, or were we not giving what was needed? Or did they not tell us what they needed and we decided not to deliver? I think there's all different ways you can look at it.
Yes, you're right. One thing that I realized was women that take their husband's names. This is something that I live in Canada. I live in the province of Quebec, and it is the only province in Canada that we are not allowed to take our spouse's name. Since 1981, women are protected from losing their identity because there was a lot of forcing to take the name of the husband. So women had to change their names. And here in the province of Quebec, this is pretty much one of the only places in the world where you are not even allowed to do it. The thing is that women here have their maiden names all their lives. They are not allowed, and the government does not accept any changes in name. That is something that I am for, but many women actually are against because they do not have the same name as their children. I know that my children have both names, and that is the way I wanted things. And I do not regret at all. So that is the way I like it. And the people actually, if they marry two, three times, they change their names two, three times. So the thing, how can you find a person? Let us say you're looking for a person that you met when you were a teenager, a friend that you met as a teenager, and that person remarried twice and changed her name twice. Well, how on earth are you going to find that person if that person changed her name two, three times? So that is something that here in my province, we do not want things to happen that way. So the thing is that we are responsible for our names and we are responsible for keeping our reputation good. Because the thing is that we cannot change our names. That is the way it is. So what do you think about that? That we cannot change our names?
I've not heard of that. I guess if somebody really wanted to change their name, they'd have to move. But to your point, I know on Facebook, people are very easily able to put what their maiden names are, and that's how you can find them. Because I wasn't aware of that, and someone actually explained to me that's why they have a name in parentheses. I never changed my name. My name's always been Jacalyn KERBECK. It's never been anything else. But I can certainly understand why people would want to change their name, especially if you are having children. So I guess in that scenario, if the government is requiring that there's no name change, then you'd have to move somewhere else that you were able to change your name.
Yes, you are right. The children, that is why my children have both names. That is why I decided that my children would have both names. They have my name, they have my ex-husband, my ex-late husband's name. Also, that is the way I saw things. But actually, we were talking before the show about the fact that there is a problem to divorce also, because when actually a woman asks for a divorce, actually there is roughly from 20% to 40% higher risk of poverty. But long term, it is said that they are emotionally a lot more satisfied and they improve their life in 4 to 5 years. The gap actually is filled. So what do you think about that, doctor?
I think that it depends on the person. Sometimes, from what I've seen, people will get divorced, and the person who was left is so devastated and filled with anger and sometimes rage. And all they want to talk about is the no good so and so and the fact that they left. And now the person has to take care of this and that. And there are many cases, at least what I've seen in the past, where one of the people have no idea how to pay bills, how to write a check. I know of a scenario with a woman who was not allowed to pump her own gas. And when her husband passed away, she had no idea how to pump her own gas. She wasn't allowed to get the mail. And this is in the US. This is not some other country. And so I think that when those things happen and a person is blindsided, now there are all these skills that they have to learn and things that they have to be responsible for that they weren't responsible for in the past. So a lot of resentment and anger can build up, as opposed to the person who knows they want to leave. They probably are planning it out in some way. I don't think someone wakes up one morning and goes, well, that's it, I'm out of here. And they've never thought about it before. So typically people might consult with an attorney or go online or find this same day divorce kind of thing. I think we have these things in New Jersey. I've driven by offices. We can divorce you in the same day. I don't know if it's true or not, but I think regardless of whether you're leaving or you're staying, if you're the one leaving, you may not have as many emotions because you think you're going to something better. And at the same time, you may be responsible for paying alimony. You may be responsible for paying child support. And so there might be a lot of resentment about that. I think either side, it's a lose. And it would, if somebody were able to sit down with their partner and say, I did love you. I will always love what we had. I like you as a person, but I don't feel that we're a good match anymore. I mean, an actual conversation that is about their feelings so that the other person knows it's not that they drove them out. It's that they grew apart. If people could sit down and communicate, I think that divorce might be different than it is. Not that that's going to change the fact that somebody's leaving, but at least if you can understand, I think that's the part that never gets explained. You see someone with another person, or you see they've lost weight and they're taking good care of themselves. And it's like, well, wait a minute, for 25 years, you didn't do anything to take care of yourself. And now, so there can be a lot of resentment on either part, but I think it depends on the level of communication and whether or not the party that's being left is open to hearing it.
You're so right. You are very right. I know that divorce, sometimes it is impossible, though, to talk to the other party. I know that my first husband, it was easy. I could talk to him. We were friends for 40 some years because I started dating him. I was 15. And I was with him for 23 years. So, and he was my friend till he passed in 2017. And I would not have changed anything. When I had a problem, I'd call him all the time. He was a very, I liked him. I liked him very much. But for my second husband, it was impossible because the thing is that, he had become violent. I had to do what I did. So the thing is that there was no way where I could just sit and talk with him and explain things to him. There was no way. So sometimes, there is a lot of resentment. And the thing is that, the only thing that you can do is like run away. And that was pretty much what I did. I ran away. He stalked me for 15 years. And the thing is that that's pretty dramatic, but those divorces do occur. And I am sorry for those that actually go through these experiences, but it does happen and it is terrible. So it's so nice that actually people can talk and get together. I know with my first husband, I could talk, I could joke. He could come at my place and have coffee. That was nice, but not with my second husband. So what do you think of that?
I think that we inherently know if the relationship that we're in is a healthy one, if it's good for us. We just feel it. But sometimes we lose our way. And even though our intuition says this isn't working, it might have said, when we first met the person, this isn't going to work, but we decided to go forward with it anyway. So not everyone is working on themselves. Not everyone is open to feedback. Sometimes it's easier to take the information and just stuff it down inside because it's so painful, when it might be better for us to actually hear what it is that the person has to share. There is a movie with Jack Nicholson, and I don't remember the title. It was really good. He was with Diane Keaton, and he had all these different girlfriends in the movie. And so as a matter of understanding how these women felt after he left them, he actually went in the movie and he met with each of them to hear their feedback. And he took that feedback on board and he became a better person, a better partner. But not everyone's interested in hearing the details about how somebody feels in a relationship. So sometimes it's a lot easier to put up walls and hide behind the walls with this thick barrier of hatred. It's easier to stay there than to have a conversation to find out what was it that you thought didn't work out, and then for the other person to share, because not everyone is open to getting feedback. And that, to me, as I was saying a few minutes ago, you know if you're in a relationship that's not working, or else you're just not paying attention. You're burying your head in something else. And that could be your work. It could be a hobby. It could be going out with friends. But there's some part of you that knows that you are not happy in this relationship with this person. And when it comes to an end, you might secretly be relieved. And at the same time, you're angry because you feel personally like you were the one that didn't have something. You weren't good enough. And that might not be the case at all. It might just be that you've outgrown each other.
You are right. You are absolutely right. But the thing is that sometimes it is just an accident. Like my second husband, he had a concussion and he became schizophrenic. So that is the end of the story. He changed. That is all. It was a disease. So there is no explanation. That is all. So that is the way things are. So what do you think about that? When a person just changes because they are ill, they had an accident, they became someone else. What do you think of that?
If someone is ill or has an accident, obviously that's not something they brought on themselves. It's not something they wished on themselves, but people do change. And that's what I'm saying. People grow apart. And I feel like we were in the situation that we were in for a reason, and we were meant to take something away from it. I've shared this before, but I had an unbelievable wedding. It was phenomenal. It was black tie. We had the band stay for an extra hour. But I remember standing at the back waiting to walk down the aisle, and I saw the man waiting for me, and I knew I was making a mistake. I just knew it. But all these people were there, and my family had already told me before I walked down the aisle, my dad's like, please don't do this. And it was nothing against him. They're just like, it's not going to work. And I knew it wasn't going to work, and I did it anyway, because now everybody's here and you're at this venue, and all this money's been spent. But I don't think that people are not aware of when there's red flags. But when something happens to someone, they fall, they're in an accident. If a person decides to leave that person when they need them, then that's one message. And if the person it happened to decides they want to leave, well, maybe as a result of what they're going through, they realize that this is not the journey that they're meant to be on. So I don't think there's any judgment. I think every situation is unique. And so what you went through or what I went through might be totally different than what someone else is going through. So I don't want to judge anyone. I just want people to maybe not be so hard on themselves. And if you are out there going through a separation or a divorce, it's a hard thing to go through. Absolutely. It changes you. In fact, it's supposed to be one of the 3 hardest things in life, right? A divorce. What's the other one? You lose your job or you move. And in some cases, you might have all 3 of those at the same time. And that's a tough one. So hopefully anyone going through it we'll get to the other side and we'll find some peace and we'll find some happiness and some validation.
And you are right, because when it comes to me, I did not want the divorce because he was extremely violent, and I tried to save that marriage. You have no idea how much I tried to save that marriage because I did not want a divorce. And I know for a fact that I thought it was the most difficult thing that I was doing for going into that divorce. And there were many risks to getting to that divorce, but I had to do it. But the thing is that women have better coping mechanisms than men. So, what do you think about women coping better than men with divorce? Because we have we have groups, we are people that women actually, they seek mental health if there's a problem. Um, we do not let go of stress. We look for solutions when we have too much stress. What do you think of that, Dr. Jacalyn?
I don't think we can generalize, obviously, because each case is different. But what I was sharing in the beginning is that what I've seen in terms of women and how they manage things, if they're the one filing, they feel very confident. They might have to deal with a lot from their family, even their children, and that might be something that really wears them down. But if they're the one who is being left, then that's a whole other story. That can go into a lot of anger, resentment, trying to turn the children against the spouse. And again, this is just generic. I don't have any statistics with me to back this up. So I think it really matters being honest with yourself. Is the relationship viable? You just talked about you were in a violent relationship. So if you came to me as my client, I was, doing private advisory, we'd explore what it was that kept you in a violent relationship. Because typically on the outside, if you think about it, if someone told you I'm in a relationship and my husband's very violent, you would think you want the best for the person. You don't want the person to stay in that situation. So there's all kinds of reasons. No one can judge you with merit for doing what you did. You did what you did for whatever reason that you did it. So people are out there going through a lot of different things, and we're not here to judge. I think it's just a matter of, does it feel right in your body? Do you say to yourself, I know this isn't working. I know no matter what I do, it's not going to work, because it's proven that it's not working, and the other person is not amenable. You may go and try to change all these things about yourself, and the other person never mentioned changing this, this, and this. And I'll give an example. I worked in the cosmetics industry part-time for many years, and I've shared this before. It's not a new story, but one of the things I would notice was how frequently women would come in and buy makeup, and then they would return it. So they'd come in on a Monday and buy it, then they'd return it to a different counter on a Friday. Then they buy the exact same thing from that counter and return it the next week. And so one day I actually just decided to have a conversation with one of these customers to find out what she was doing. And she was buying red lipstick and green eyeshadow. And anyone who has ever been in the cosmetics industry, you do not do these two things together, because when you're wearing red lipstick, your eyes are drawn to the lips. And when you're wearing green eyeshadow, your eyes are drawn here. So now you don't know where to look, and they're competing against each other. So I sat the woman in my chair. She hadn't bought the products from me, but she had bought and returned from so many different counters. And she came to me to return. And so I said, what was it that motivated you to buy this red and green? And I had no judgment. I've watched you over the last few weeks. And she said, my husband doesn't pay any attention to me. I think he has someone else. And I said, well, I'm very sorry to hear that. Can you share with me, how does what you're doing impact your feelings about this? And she said, well, I want him to notice me. And I said, aha, now we have it. We want the red lipstick and the green eyeshadow so that he can't possibly not notice you. And I said, so what if he does notice you for wearing these. And she's like, well, it's not working, because that's why I keep bringing it back and going to different counters and buying different products. So I said to her, how would you feel if your husband actually saw you for you without the makeup on? And then she started to cry. And she got a divorce. She left him. She left him because she realized that there wasn't enough choices of red lipstick and green eyeshadow in the world to make that relationship work. Even though she tried, she was pretending with herself. She was telling herself that something was viable when it wasn't. And it turned out he'd been seeing someone for a number of years. And so he was just as grateful when she decided to file for divorce, because he wasn't in love with her. So that's my green eyeshadow, red lipstick story.
That story is absolutely great. It's a very good lesson for many. Thank you for sharing it, because it's absolutely amazing. I will always remember that story. This is yes, that's interesting. You should share it a lot more, because many women could learn from that beautiful story and even mention it in one of your books. This will also help a lot into marriage advice, because the thing is that, I have people that actually are into marriages where their husbands do not notice them at all, or just treat them like little people, and they still insist on being with their husbands, because they're scared of being alone. So the thing is that, I call that a married widow. So the thing is that, when you're a married widow, why not be single? Because the thing is that, if you're just there to clean and to take care of the house and to do the grocery, well, you are just a married widow. That is all. So that is the way I see it. So when we are a married widow, we just have to think, do we want to stay like that, or do we want to be happy? Because the thing is, how many years do we still have to live? Do we want to live them alone? Well, badly accompanied? Or do we want to be happy with ourselves? That is a question we should ask. What do you think about that, Dr. Jacalyn?
I agree with you, absolutely. And I think, to sum up this particular segment, that whatever it is that you're going through in life, your gut will give you the indication if something feels right or if it doesn't. And many times we choose to ignore it, and we end up with a partner because we're lonely, because we don't know how to move forward without a partner. We've always had a partner. Everyone in our family has a partner. We're by ourselves. We don't want to spend the holidays alone, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I would just like people to really tap into what's going on inside. Really know yourself before you get into another relationship, and decide, is this something that I'm willing to commit my time and energy to? For me, the answer is an absolute no. It doesn't make any sense. It's not fair to someone else. I don't have the time or the inclination or the interest to be in a relationship. And people might say, oh, but you never. No, I do know. I know me, and I know what I want. That is my conviction. And I think when we tap into that and say, what is the reason I really want a partner? Am I ready to make a commitment to share the time to put whatever is necessary into it? And good Reverend, I must say goodbye, as it is the end of our program, but I will leave you to close out. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So thank you very much for watching this show. So we will be back next week. So please subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV and Radio, and Dr. Jacalyn KERBECK's channels also on YouTube. So see you next week. And it was a great show for us. And thank you very much for watching. Namaste.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA Global TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacalyn KERBECK. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.